The chandelier light in the grand ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria glittered like 1,000 tiny warnings. Alexander Voss sat alone at table 12, the one closest to the service corridor, because he had asked for it. He liked entrances and exits within reach. The tuxedo jacket strained across his shoulders. He had gained 8 pounds of muscle since the last time he wore it, and the tailor in Milan had sworn the fit was perfect. Lies, all of it. The champagne flute in his hand trembled slightly, not from nerves but from the memory of a different glass, a different night, a different city where a woman had smiled at him the same way the blonde across the room was smiling now. Her name was Claire Everett. She moved between the tables with the practiced ease of someone who had grown up in places like this: silver spoons, trust funds, the quiet certainty that the world would rearrange itself to accommodate her. She wore the uniform of the catering staff: white blouse, red skirt, black apron. But the blouse was one button looser than regulation, and the skirt hugged her hips in a way that suggested she had chosen it herself. In her left hand she carried a fresh flute of Dom Perignon. In her right, a small white card. She stopped in front of Alexander, placed the flute in his waiting fingers, and pressed the card against his palm. "Don't drink it, and leave now." The words were written in hurried block letters, the ink still wet. Alexander's pulse did not quicken. It simply shifted gears, the way a race car drops from fifth to third without the driver touching the clutch. He looked up. Claire's eyes were the color of winter sky over the Hudson. Pale, almost translucent, and right now wide with something that wasn't fear. It was urgency. She gave the smallest shake of her head, then turned and walked away, her heels clicking against the marble like a countdown. Alexander did not drink. He set the flute down untouched, the bubbles rising in perfect columns, innocent as lies. Around him the gala swirled. Senators, hedge fund princes, a pop star whose last album had debuted at #1, all of them laughing too loudly because the champagne was free and the cause was noble. Something about pediatric cancer, though no one could quite remember the name of the foundation. He stood, smoothed the front of his jacket, and followed the red skirt through the service door. The corridor behind the ballroom smelled of bleach and rosemary. Stainless steel carts lined the walls, laden with half-eaten desserts and abandoned crystal. Claire was 20 feet ahead, moving fast. She didn't look back. Alexander matched her pace, his polished Oxfords silent on the rubber mats. At the freight elevator she pressed the button, then finally turned. "You're late," she said. "I was deciding whether to trust you. And I still am." The elevator doors slid open. Inside, the walls were padded with quilted blankets to protect the hotel's antiques. Claire stepped in, punched the button for the sub-basement, and leaned against the rail. The doors closed. For 3 floors they said nothing. Then, "My name isn't Claire," she said. "It's Katya. Katya Volkov." And that champagne was laced with a paralytic. 10 minutes after ingestion, your diaphragm stops. You suffocate smiling. Alexander studied her. The accent was faint, Midwestern with a trace of something colder. "Who wants me dead?" "Everyone who isn't in this elevator." The doors opened onto a concrete tunnel lit by flickering fluorescents. A black Suburban idled at the far end, engine running. Katya moved toward it. Alexander followed, because the alternative was returning to the ballroom and drinking the champagne, and he had never been suicidal. The driver was a woman with a buzz cut and a neck tattoo of a raven. She didn't speak. Katya slid into the back seat. Alexander took the opposite side. The Suburban lurched forward, tires humming over the ramp that led to the street. "Seat belt," Katya said. He clicked it. "You could have just texted me. I don't have your number. You could have gotten it." "I did. But texts can be traced. This," she gestured at the Suburban, "the tunnel, the night. This is deniable." They emerged onto 50th Street. The city was a river of brake lights and yellow cabs. The driver took a hard left onto Park Avenue, then another onto 49th. Alexander watched the mirrors. No tails. Yet. "Talk," he said. Katya pulled a tablet from her apron pocket. Hotel issued, but the lock screen was a custom fractal. She swiped, and a dossier appeared. His face stared back at him. Alexander Voss, 34, former Navy SEAL, current private military contractor, net worth redacted, last known location the Waldorf Astoria. Underneath, a single line in red. Target acquired. Eliminate by 2,200. Someone paid $3 million for your head, she said. Wire transfer from a shell in the Caymans. The buyer used a cutout in Prague. I intercepted the confirmation 20 minutes ago. Who's the cutout? Doesn't matter. He's already dead. The buyer. Though, she tapped the screen. A new photo. A man in his 60s, silver hair, hawk nose, standing on the deck of a yacht flying the flag of Monaco. Victor Lang. Ring any bells? Alexander's jaw tightened. He hired me last year. Black Ops in Caracas. I pulled his son out of a kidnapping. The kid was 16, spoiled, high on his own adrenaline. I carried him 12 miles through the jungle with a bullet in my calf. Lang thinks you know where the ransom money went. 200 million, unaccounted for. He's convinced you skimmed it. I didn't. I know. But conviction is a hell of a motivator. The Suburban screeched to a halt outside a bodega on Lex and 53 Road. The driver killed the lights. Katya handed Alexander a baseball cap and a hoodie. Put these on. We're switching cars. They slipped out. The night air was sharp with November chill. Inside the bodega, a teenager behind the counter didn't look up from his phone. Katya led Alexander through the back, past shelves of plantain chips and Goya beans, into an alley where a dented gray Camry waited. New plates, rental sticker still on the windshield. She took the wheel this time. Keys? He asked. Under the mat. Old school. They pulled into traffic. Alexander watched the side mirror. A black SUV 3 cars back made the same turn. Company. I see it. Katya floored it, weaving through yellow lights. The Camry was a 2012 model with bald tires and a governor that capped out at 90, but she drove it like a Formula One car. They blew through a red on 59th, tires squealing. The SUV followed, closer now. Alexander rolled down his window, pulled a Glock from the glove box, Katya's, apparently, and chambered around. Left in 2 blocks, he said. She nodded. They hit the FDR ramp doing 80. The East River glittered below, black and oily. The SUV rammed their bumper. The Camry fishtail ed. Katya corrected, hands steady. Alexander leaned out the window, aimed for the tires. 2 shots. The SUV swerved, smashed into the guardrail, and flipped. Sparks and glass. Gone. Silence, except for the engine's whine. Katya exited at 96th, took the service road into Spanish Harlem. She parked behind a church with a neon cross flickering between English and Spanish. Safe house, she said. For now. The building was a converted rectory, 3 stories, bars on the windows. Inside, the air smelled of incense and old coffee. A man in a priest's collar greeted them with a shotgun. Katya spoke to him in rapid Spanish. He lowered the weapon, disappeared upstairs. Alexander peeled off the hoodie. You're not catering staff. Undercover. FBI, technically. But tonight I'm off the books. Why? Because Lang owns half the deputy directors. If I went through channels, you'd be dead and I'd be reassigned to a desk in Fargo. She led him to a room on the 2nd floor. Spartan. Cot, card table, laptop glowing in the dark. On the table, a manila folder. She opened it. Inside, photos of the champagne flute, close-ups of the liquid. A lab report. Tetrodotoxin, synthetic, military grade. Lang's people dosed the entire case, she said. 12 bottles. You were the only target, but collateral was acceptable. Alexander sat on the cot. The springs groaned. What's the play? We disappear you. New identity, new country. Witness protection, black bag edition. No. She raised an eyebrow. You have a better idea. I find Lang. I ask him why he wants me dead. Then I stop wanting to be dead. That's suicide. It's clarification. Katya studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed, the sound of someone who had argued this before and lost. Fine. But we do it my way. She opened the laptop. Satellite images loaded. Monaco, the yacht harbor, Lang's berth. He flies in tomorrow for a fundraiser at the Met. Black tie, heavier security than the gala. We hit him there. You need a +1. Alexander almost smiled. You clean up nice. Don't get ideas. Too late. They spent the night planning. Katya's contacts were a network of ghosts. A forger in Queens who owed her a favor, a drone operator in Brooklyn, a sommelier at the Met who could swap bottles without anyone noticing. Alexander cleaned the Glock, checked the magazine, then cleaned it again. Habit. At 04:00 they slept, 2 hours each, taking turns on the cot. When he woke, Katya was at the table, hair in a messy bun, eating cold pizza from a box labeled Street Ignatius Youth Group. Breakfast of champions, she said. He took a slice. Pepperoni, congealed grease. Perfect. By noon they had credentials. Alexander as a Swiss art dealer, Katya as his translator. The forger had outdone himself. Passports, driver's licenses, even a business card with a QR code that linked to a real website selling conceptual sculptures made of recycled bullets. They dressed in a storage unit in Long Island City. Tuxedo for him, emerald silk gown for her, slit high enough to hide a thigh holster. She strapped a knife to her calf. He watched, said nothing. The Met at dusk was a fortress. Snipers on the roof, dogs in the courtyard, facial recognition at every entrance. Katya's sommelier friend met them in the loading dock, handed over a case of Krug, 88. One bottle switched. Inside. Not tetrodotoxin, but a micro-tracker, liquid capsule, dissolves in 5 minutes. Lang would drink, the tracker would ping, and they would follow. Inside, the great hall echoed with string quartets and champagne flutes. Alexander spotted Lang near the Temple of Dender, surrounded by sycophants. The man hadn't aged a day since Caracas, same hawk nose, same predatory smile. Katya circulated, laughing at jokes in 3 languages. Alexander waited by the bar, nursing a club soda. At 20:45, Lang took the bait. The sommelier poured. Lang raised the glass, toasted the museum's new wing. Drank. Alexander felt the tracker go live on his phone, a blinking red dot moving through the crowd. They followed at a distance. Lang excused himself, headed for the restrooms near the Arms and Armor exhibit. Perfect. Dark, quiet, fewer cameras. Katya slipped ahead, melted into the shadows. Alexander counted to 30, then followed. Lang was at the sink, washing his hands. The tracker showed him stationary. Alexander stepped into the marble corridor. Empty. Too empty. He heard the click of a suppressor. Katya's voice. Low. Drop it. He turned. She stood 10 feet away, gown shimmering, a beretta aimed at his chest. Behind her, Lang smiled. Change of plans, Lang said. Katya works for me. Always has. Alexander's mind raced. The champagne. The warning. The escape. All of it staged. He was the rat, and the maze had led exactly where they wanted. Katya's eyes were winter again, but colder. I'm sorry, she said. And meant it. Lang stepped forward. The money, Alexander. Where is it? There is no money. Your son spent it on hookers and blow in Panama. I buried the receipts with the kidnappers. Lang's face twisted. Liar. He nodded to Katya. She raised the gun. Alexander moved first. Not toward her. Toward the suit of armor behind Lang. He grabbed the halberd, swung it like a baseball bat. The blade caught Lang across the temple. Blood sprayed the marble. Katya fired. The bullet sparked off the armor. Alexander dove, rolled, came up with the Glock. 2 shots. Katya dropped, gown blooming red at the shoulder. Lang groaned on the floor. Alexander knelt, pressed the halberd to his throat. Call them off. Lang spat blood. Too late. Alarms blared. Footsteps pounded. Security. Alexander looked at Katya. She was pale, but alive. You played me. I played him, she whispered. The tracker's in his glass. FBI's listening. Whole conversation recorded. Lang's done. He stared. The red dot on his phone wasn't Lang. It was the glass. Shattered on the floor. The capsule had dissolved into the carpet. Sirens outside. FBI vests poured in. Katya was cuffed, gently, by her own people. Lang was zip-tied, still conscious, still furious. Alexander stood in the middle, halberd in hand, blood on his tuxedo. An agent approached. Mr. Voss, you're free to go. Ms. Volkov's testimony clears you. Alexander looked at Katya. She managed a crooked smile. Told you I was off the books. He handed the halberd to the agent. Next time, just send an email. 3 days later, Alexander sat on a bench in Central Park, watching runners and dogs. The city had moved on. Lang was in federal custody, the gala champagne destroyed, the ransom money a myth. Katya, real name redacted, was in protective custody, debriefing. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Don't drink the coffee, the text read. He looked up. Across the path, a woman in a red coat held a paper cup. She raised it in salute, then walked away. Alexander smiled, for the first time in days. He stood, tossed his own untouched coffee in the trash, and followed the red coat into the crowd. Some warnings, he decided, were worth heeding.